I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. So today, things are gonna get a little bit evil because we're gonna be dabbling in a little bit of the EvilCraft mod. I love how I just said a little bit because technically we are gonna be going through almost all of what EvilCraft has to offer. Besides making an actual mob farm. Believe it or not, did you know that EvilCraft can allow you to make a mob farm? Yeah, that's a thing. There's even like a 3x3 chest that gives you like storage, and also a chest that can repair items using some of the EvilCraft blood. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna need to work on that does involve EvilCraft. And well, I did kind of make a little bit of a whoopsie around my base, and this is going to actually help me get started. And there may or may not have been a little bit of an accident that happened around my bunny spawner. Just a little bit. And so this will also help me clean up this awful mess as well. But yes, on the topic of blood, if you are squeamish, well, I don't even know how you're playing games. No, but with all jokes aside, yes, we're going to be dabbling into some blood magic, and we're going to need a lot of blood. So taking a look at things we actually are going to need blood for in the future, it can actually be exchanged down the road for the blood that is going to be filled into our Hephaestus Forge. And so whenever we start to make these automatic Hephaestus forges, we are going to need a blood supply. So it might be a good idea to go ahead and get started with that production. And so this is just one of many ways that we can do this. There is apparently a bee that can do it, but I was looking at this way. If we can get ourselves an undead log, we can then farm that log indefinitely with a lumber bee. This also allows me to show off how powerful these lumber bees can actually be. All the puns, all the puns today, apparently. But yes, those productive bees are going to be able to infinitely produce blood for us. But we still need to sort of progress a little bit through the EvilCraft mod. And this can be kind of confusing. Thankfully, though, there is a little bit of a guide here. And we don't really have to go too crazy into the mod either to complete the All the Mods star. So we really need to just get these piercing vengeance focuses. And the cool thing is these vengeance focuses are technically how you would farm vengeance spirits. Now, oddly enough, there's not many ways that we are going to technically be able to produce this dust right here. I mean, unless we were to dabble into occultism, we had an occultism crusher that could crush it, or we get into integrated dynamics. Now, getting into integrated dynamics actually seems like a pretty reasonable way of doing this and is probably going to be one of the easiest ways to automate. But unfortunately, as you can see, I haven't even touched integrated dynamics. Now, thankfully, I have a pretty fast, tried and true method that allows us to get started with integrated dynamics pretty quickly. And that first involves finding ourselves a Minglin. I believe that's how it's pronounced, a Minglin biome. And this is going to be a great thing. You could find these trees sprawled throughout, but this biome is going to guarantee those trees. Yeah, we're going to need very specific trees. Now, I know you may be thinking, I thought you were doing blood magic. I mean, EvilCraft. And yeah, we are. We have to kind of get this started. Ooh, it might be good to note that this exists over here because this is a part of EvilCraft and we are going to have to use this in our EvilCraft adventures. I'll be coming back to that thing later. Right now, though, we are focused on getting those logs. And this is the beautiful biome that I'm looking for. And these trees right here, the mineral trees, are the specific trees that I am looking for. So we can just vein mine them, grab all the leaves, get all of the goodies. We're going to need a few of these logs. I would recommend about a stack if you can harvest it. And I tell you what, integrated dynamics just has a special place in my heart. Honestly, this mod is really, really good if you don't have any other storage solution available to you. Just because of its redstone logistics, its capabilities to read NBT data and all kinds of special information that just most mods don't allow you to do. This mod can do it, and it may come in a very tiny package, but man, this thing really packs a punch. To be able to make this, I do need a squeezer and a drying basin. Very, very simple machines to get up and running, and technically a pressure plate. Now, I would not typically recommend this, but this is kind of me showing like the default way of doing this. Essentially, what you would do is you would place a squeezer down. You would make sure that this funnel is running in the direction, and on either side of that funnel direction, you just want to place that drying basin. place your down a pressure plate like that, and then place the log inside, and then jump. Yeah, manually jump until this whole thing is squeezed up. But yeah, let me tell you, this is not the best way to do this. And by the way, to reset, that's why you put the pressure plate here, to give it a redstone signal. This is okay, but it is going to still take you a while, and it's a lot of manual operations. So yeah, this can actually be automated, believe it or not, by just using some armor stands. And this seems kind of weird that this is even a possibility, but if I place, for example, an armor stand right on top, and then on top of that armor stand, we can actually use armor stands to do this manual task automatically. We just need to break this and line up the two armor stands, which is going to give enough pressure falling down to fully crush this. And if we give it a signal, notice that this will do the crushing for us. And if we just make a very, very simple redstone clock, this can be automated. And a way that we can make a redstone clock is as such. So we have a torch, and then we just, from that torch, we run some redstone, so like this, and we run that into the back of a comparator, and then we make sure to set it to 3 so it doesn't burn out, and we have ourselves almost a perfectly timed redstone clock for this setup. And then I can use myself a hopper down here and a hopper on here and place in my logs. And this setup is now basically automated, giving us all of the crystal mineral that we are going to need to make the actual full automated blocks. Or I guess machines, I should say. And I'll tell you what, that little tidbit of information has saved me so much time in Modpacks, I will tell you this. And then also, don't forget that you can accelerate this block right here if you have the time wand. And yeah, even faster. So after a few seconds of that, there we go. We now have ourselves a mechanical squeezer, which will do this automatically for us. And we also have ourselves a mechanical drying basin. And this is what we need to do some automations that are going to permanently get us blood from within EvilCraft. Now, I'm going to come back to this in a minute. We're going to get a little bit deeper into EvilCraft before we actually start working on automating this. But yeah, keep in mind, advanced pattern providers are going to work well with this, considering this is kind of top input bias. So yeah, you definitely want, if you're going to be able to automate this, we are going to want that in probably some way, like this import bus, for example, to pull the items back in. We'll take a look at that though whenever we kind of get further into EvilCraft. So how do we get started with EvilCraft? First of all, I am going to need a blood extractor, and I've already made this. And this is pretty straightforward. So if we go ahead and we make this thing, let's see, this is an extractor, right? This just uses a dark gem and a couple of spikes, which are more dark gems, which we found and definitely have a ton of from our quarry. Now, if you've been underground any time whatsoever, you may have come across some fish that might have ended up, falling to their demise, right? And so they end up leaving a blood stain. And with this tool, you can shift right click to pick it up. And this is a great way to get a little bit of blood kind of getting started. But if you actually don't find these, don't fret, because there is other ways that you can actually go about doing this. You could, for example, make yourself some spiky claws, and while you have this in your inventory, and I believe auto supply, let's see, that will automatically give you the blood. But I believe whenever you attack mobs with this, it should automatically fill your blood extractor. And yeah, it's basically a shovel. And I do want to test this just to make sure that I am not running my mouth here. 3,480. If I attack 3,480, I don't know if it has to be on auto consume, 3,603. So yes, yeah, all you have to do is just kind of kill the mob with the spiky claws. And so now that I have a few of these filled, I can just right click like inside of some holes like this, for example, and we can start to fill them with some blood. And this should harden pretty quickly, and we'll get ourselves some hardened blood that we can then break. Oh yeah, this also requires another tool. Now, for whatever reason, that tool is technically flint and steel, and this grants us some hardened blood shards. Don't ask me why it's flint and steel, but maybe there's some lore or something based around that. I have no idea. Now, another interesting part of this progression is taking an entirely filled blood extractor and filling the area with that blood, and then tossing a dark gem into it. And whenever you place it within 5 of these blocks, you'll get yourself a dark power gem. Now we have to have this to make this whole process a little bit easier. And this is going to allow us to make ourselves an infusion core, which gets us our first blood infuser. Once we have this blood infuser, the entire progression of the mod sort of kicks off. And honestly, I will say that most of the progression kind of just happens inside of this block. So we kind of feel like it deserves its own little cubbyhole. For example, right here is going to be probably just fine. But now here's where things are going to get interesting, right? So we've gotten a little bit of the EvilCraft done. I keep wanting to call it blood magic, but I've gotten a little bit of the EvilCraft done, and our progression basically branches off here. And the pun is 100% intended because of the undead tree. So we can craft ourselves an undead tree by using a dead bush and just a little bit of blood here. And once we have one of these, that's where things is really going to kick off. As this, my friends, is what's going to allow us to automate blood. But there are other ways that we could do it. And if you want to check out my All the Mods 9 playthrough, I actually automated it by utilizing this right here, which is called a sanguinary pedestal, at least in English. I do believe its language of origin, though, is French, which is not pronounced anywhere near that way, nor can I even try to pronounce it like that. I will tell you, though, it does stand for bloodthirsty, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this block you essentially can put in your mob farm, and if you have yourself a spike plate on top, it will actually just build up blood for you. Now, apparently to get a dead bush, we can just simply place it inside of an alloy smelter. That seems to work out really, really good. Good old Ender.io coming in clutch there. So let's make this bad boy. We'll go ahead and fill our infuser with a teensy little bit of blood, get ourselves a dead bush, and we're going to make ourselves our first sapling. Now, this is process a little bit slow, but thankfully, this is another example where the time wand can really help. And that is one of my biggest complaints with the blood infuser. It is going to be a little bit slow early on our crafts until you slowly but surely upgrade your machine. Now here's where things are going to get interesting, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grow myself a undead sapling. Yes, and use some bone meal to hopefully get this thing to grow. And there we go. So this is our tree. Now I don't know if the saplings will rejuvenate, but I do know that we can use like an extractor, for example, on the leaves to get blood, and we can also use it on the undead logs. Both of these are honestly pretty great if we could constantly reproduce them. And just to show you that in JEI, if we take a look at the mechanical squeezer here, if we use the undead leaves in here, we actually get hardened blood shards 100%, and then we get a little bit of blood. And then on the logs, if we use this inside of a squeezer, we are guaranteed 100 blood every operation. And I don't know about you, but that seems pretty cool. Now also look what this tree does. This tree also drops just blood stains on the ground that we could just collect. Like, that is also really, really cool. But like I said, I'm more interested in automatically harvesting these logs. Look at that. So there we go. So we got the logs. Notice, by the way, we did not get another sapling, but we did get dead bushes. And I don't know if over time this tree does slowly decay and run out of the blood, but it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at all. The main thing I really want is just getting that blood. That is what's going to make this possible. And our undead logs can actually be replicated. Believe it or not. And this bee, by the way, can be made with a simple yellow and green carpenter bee. So just kind of goes to show how simple these are to make. And so I'll just go ahead and get 5 of those bred up. And we're going to have 5 running on a single log. Technically, if you were to use a simulation and you were using the feeding plate for this, they can technically farm 3 different types of logs. And so with a productivity omega upgrade, this is actually what we need, because this is actually a combination of a couple of different upgrades that are kind of required for the lumber bee to work properly. So this right here is going to produce logs, and we do want those logs to be blocks. So by putting this upgrade, that's going to be great. I do believe this needs it, unless it's the quarry bee. I'm kind of mixing it up. It might be both. This actually might not need like the block upgrade. I have no idea at this point, but we still want it to be a simulation, and this is the best upgrade. So putting those in, these are all going to start farming logs, and we define what log by simply placing that log in here, and we should be able to see, if I accelerate this, the logs starting to automatically build up. It's just a tree farm in a single block. I love this. Now, back in our SFM code, we are probably going to want to add a new output line to dim. So I'm going to go ahead and just simply add a new line right here that is going to be output log, simply log to dim. So it's going to pull from the hives and output log to dim. That should be pretty straightforward, and really a minor change to be able to handle now logs coming into the system. So that dim, by the way, we are going to have to handle those items going into it. And so we'll put that inside of our storage drawer system. But let's go ahead and grab our SFM and then make sure to shift right click to pull in the tags, right click hive. If I haven't done this enough, right click here and then right click, not shift right click, to then send to the manager. And then our logs should now be pulled out. Perfect. So now we're about to have an absolutely unlimited supply of blood logs. Yes. So back into functional storage. I'm going to go ahead and make myself more upgrades. This is just thousands of upgrades, and we can also put voids on here. But there we go. So now all of our logs are going into here, and we can use them to automatically now produce blood. Now hear me out. I completely understand that there is a bee that does produce blood, but this bee actually requires quite a bit of blood before you can even do it in the first place, and also requires a nomad bee, which has its own like process of getting it that is kind of convoluted, honestly. But now we have a way of producing it without this bee. So now is when we get to go back to our mechanical squeezer, and this is where things are going to get kind of automated. Or at least I kind of want to automate in this particular way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the mechanical squeezer here produce up this fluid, and I do not want the auto eject to container like on. But notice this is starting to build up with blood. I need just a bucket's worth. And as soon as I get that, which we get 100 apiece, there we go. I can now create a container that we can store this in and then lock it, and we're ready to go. Like this is ready to go for automation, I think. So just put the lock on there. Then we can add it to our storage drawer network. Perfect. As you can see, this makes like storage of all the fluids like super easy to manage. But now I need to constantly send it to here. So I'm going to place a bus. I think I can send it to the top. I think that would be the best place for this, right? So on the mechanical squeezer, we'll send it to the top. So let's see, bus. This is the export bus. It's going to export out of our system, and exporting is going to be the logs. So the blood logs, I think they're called blood logs, right? These bad words right here, undead logs. I keep calling them the wrong thing. And then that's going to automatically fill this. And then we want an import bus to pull the fluids out. And we should be able to pull from the back, I think. If not, we're going to have to change this up, and we're going to have to pull from the bottom. Like I said, this can be kind of side specific, which can cause some problems. All right, so as soon as that's connected, that worked. There we go. Okay, so the fluid should be going into here, and we should see that fluid level slowly but surely filling up. So I hope. Oh, that's right. Because of the way this works, the importer is actually pulling out the undead logs. So yeah, on this, we are going to want to specifically say that we want blood to be the only thing allowed in. And to do that, we can just drag this in here. That should stop the importer from doing that. And now we are getting that blood, and then it's getting pulled out, and now it's increasing. Yeah, there can be some weird things happening with these machines. And then to make sure it is always and constantly processing, I'm going to make sure it has a nice large container, and then also a void upgrade in there. That way, whenever it starts to fully fill up, it'll constantly be voiding those logs. And so now we can take that and send that blood directly into our infuser right here. Ah, that is going to be very, very nice. And some acceleration cards to make sure this transfers fast. And so are we going to need to actually upgrade our infuser? Yes, because we are going to need this Bonza. I'm going to pronounce this completely wrong as well. But we do need this for the Mace of Destruction, which is required for the ATM star. You can see it right here, and it needs to be completely filled with blood. And this means I get to go on the journey of actually upgrading my tools. Now, along the way, we can make ourselves the effortless ring. This appears like it would be a really nice thing. And if it provides enough speed for me to actually remove the charged effect, honestly, I wouldn't mind getting rid of this like charged particle effect around me. Now, in order to actually upgrade this machine, we are going to need those crushed dark gems, and this is where the squeezer is going to come into play, like the mechanical squeezer. So I know we're already using it for logs, but we can stop that process for a moment. And since it's automatically sending it in, we can take our dark gems, right? And I can go ahead and start to produce a bunch, right? Mechanical squeezer, toss that in real quick. That's going to start producing the dust. And we just need to tell this, hey, might as well also allow dust inside of the importer. Actually, maybe not. This is where I was worried. I thought that the mechanical squeezer might be still side specific. So yes, you have to insert from the top, and then the sides you can pull out the fluids, but the bottom is where we are going to be able to receive those outputs. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out manually. We may need to automate this in the future. I just don't know yet. But that dust is essentially going to be used for these bowls of promises. So we are going to need like these special gems, which by the way, we can make this now that we have the blood in here. So we can take our dark gems. I think we'll do a few of them for right now, like 4. And like I said, I recommend accelerating this because these do have some time constraints on there. This does kind of break a little bit of like the way the progression's intended to be played out. But you know what? I feel like it's kind of worth it in this case. Since the majority of the items we're going to be needing, we're probably not really going to be taking too much advantage of, aside from that effortless ring. So let's go ahead and make our tier 1 bowl right here. So there's the bowl. And then we're going to make the promises. This is the basic tier. And this just needs to be infused in here, I do believe, with nothing inside. Just simply goes in and then is going to take a while. Like a long while. And also for tier 1, it's going to cost a block of iron. Now, this is still running at 8 times speed, so just kind of keep that in mind. But this gets us our first major upgrade, and we have the promise of tenacity 1. And this goes in this slot right here. In doing this, we now have a much larger blood reservoir and room for some more augments here. And when I say other augments, it's because you can actually get some like efficiencies on here. So this is the promise of productivity. And this one is also made, it looks like, on the lower tier. Yeah, no, it's on the second tier, technically, because of the different tiers of the promises. But yes, these acceptors, I believe they're called. Yeah, acceptors, we are going to need gold and then eventually diamond. They are going to require the corresponding tier, and it's all upgraded kind of in the same way, right? You can see right here. So getting up to tier 3 is not that difficult. Like, we are still going to need the same bowl, same basic bowl right here for this as well, except this one now has the upgrade in it, which means it is going to be of the higher tier. So tier 2, promise of tenacity, there we go, and I believe this just takes the place of this upgrade. There we go, and it now goes up to 160 buckets worth of blood. It's a lot. Now, to put this in perspective, when doing the final tier, the high tier crafts here, they do take a very long time, but you can, if you don't have a time wand, you can actually craft yourself some promises of velocity, and you can place multiple, I do believe, inside, and it will make the machine already faster. But I can kind of forego doing this operation by simply using my time wand, which is kind of cheesy. Like I said, it does break a little bit of the progression, but you know, I'm not the one who added it in the pack. It's in here. You know, blame Dyer for that. I mean, okay, so now that I have myself the promise acceptor, the diamond tier, now we can craft this. Well, almost, right? Because I do need the higher tier. I almost forgot. I do need the higher tier bowl of promises. And this only costs like 5. That's actually really cheap. Like the fact that it only costs 5 compared to this, which costs an entire 160 buckets of blood. This bad boy is filled to the brim with some nasty stuff. So now that we got all of this blood circulating, it's now time to make the final upgrade, which is this one right here, just requiring an Eye of Ender, and voila, we'll swap this out just like so, and this now holds 640 buckets on top of how many buckets our actual storage can hold, which is a ton. Like I said, the good part about this is all of this blood is going to be able to be used in the future, because we are going to need that. So this is me kind of preemptively getting this set up so that way it can be constantly produced over time. Now I still want to make this ring, and this ring actually needs that velocity and 1 productivity as well. Oh yeah, and like I mentioned before, the productivity would technically save us blood, but who needs to worry about it whenever you have unlimited amounts? But here we go. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and then we can craft ourselves this effortless ring, which I'm kind of interested to see how this actually works, because right now our speed seems pretty normal. And does this ring make it faster? I can't really tell. Do we have to equip it into a certain slot? I've never used this before. So yeah, this is default speed, by the way, without having, and I'm like sprinting right now. This is default sprint speed without having the charged effect. Like I have it removed now. And so if I put the ring in my inventory, now we get basically the same speed that we have. I mean, this feels pretty similar. And if this is the thing you like, you can also step up immediately. Kind of like the horse step up, right? This isn't like the kind of step up that you may be thinking like an auto step. No. This is more like the way a horse works. But interesting, it also gives us like a jump boost as well. Like we can jump significantly higher. I can jump all the way up 3 blocks with this. You know what I think for right now? This is a great substitution instead of having that charge. So now I can remove the charge effect off of me. It was getting kind of annoying, honestly. So now it's time for the actual fun part where we get to take down some spirits. So how are we going to do this? Now the quest right here wants us to make this Garmonboza. There we go. I got it. Wants us to make this right here. So to do this, we are going to need Vengeance Essence. And the way that we actually get this Vengeance Essence is through Vengeance Essence. I know, it's exactly what it sounds like. But you may be like, well, how do you actually get this essence? It does take a little bit of kind of reading technically to do that, but I'll save you from that reading by simply showing you how this works. So we can get vengeance to pop up more frequently by doing this, but you may have encountered them already where you killed a mob and man, all of a sudden you weren't able to kill that mob anymore. And you were just punching like a wall over and over again. It's probably because there was a vengeance spirit in the way, but you weren't able to actually see that vengeance spirit. Well, to be able to see it, you can actually do this right here. So we can make a vengeance ring, and I do recommend maybe making a vengeance ring and having a vengeance focus, and then actually turning this vengeance focus into a piercing vengeance focus. And to get some blood orbs, this is again where we utilize this block right here. Just placing that in there should get us some simple blood orbs. It's going to consume that and fill it up. Perfect. Now later on, we are going to need quite a few more of these, so it might be efficient for us to have this maxed out with some efficiency upgrades and things like that. We do have other means of accelerating, so we could also do that as well. But yeah, this right here is kind of the combo. So this is going to freeze vengeance spirits. I do believe this might also do the same thing, but we really need this ring right here activated. This one right here will attract those vengeances. This is like a beam that casts. Yeah, we don't necessarily need that, but we do need this one. This is the beam that is going to damage the vengeance spirits. Oh yeah, we haven't actually seen vengeance spirits yet. Oh, and sorry, don't be alarmed by what you just witnessed. That's right, this vengeance ring also gives us more abilities, including invisibility, which is a kind of a problem, but we also get more speed. So notice, by the way, how much faster I'm actually going and running with this. I just really don't like that it gives us invisibility. Now you're also going to want a weapon that probably has some really high damage values. So I'm actually going to head into, let's see, the other, where the piglitches are. This is a great place to do this, by the way. And yes, if we take on some of these mobs that reside in here, for example, like this, and we use a high damage sword such as this, we can see those spirits. And then I can use this to then take out those spirits, or at least try to. I don't know where that one went. There we go. There's a spirit. Trying to use this on it. Hey, get back. It does take some time. You can see it is technically working. There we go. And yes, it just takes a while to get these guys down. And when we do, if you notice, it did drop the item that we need, which is the Vengeance Essence. Yeah, by the way, this high-powered sword basically just has, by default, touch. And the way you can set this up is you just take this, for example, I'll show you here. You can take this item after you've made the Enchanter's Sword. You can build a spell. For example, my spell is right here. And it's just harm to amplify, and then you can give it a color. The color actually changes the color of your sword. Place it down on here, select it, and then shift right click, and that will actually inscribe that spell onto here, which does get cast whenever I attack. So yeah, this sword, yeah, is doing the damage spell. It's really powerful. Now, I'm pretty sure that we could also get vengeance spirits from like passive mobs. This might be another easier way of doing it. Look at this. It's just so absurd and ridiculous, but I love it. And no way I just got a Vengeance Spirit trophy. It's completely invisible. So perfect. We're almost there. This requires 50 blood each, it looks like, and we can go ahead and put, I believe, once we have these converted, just like that, this will at least allow us to make that mace that we're going to need. So put that in there. It looks like I have definitely enough. So while that is converting, it's going to take a little bit of time, not too big of a deal. We can go ahead and start working on some of the other things we're going to need for the mace, including the empowered inverted potentia. Yes, this thing right here. Looks like the environmental accumulator is what we need for this. But it also looks like this can be formed inside of here with 60 blood. I kind of want to try this method though. Doesn't seem like it's that difficult. Oh, its tooltip does say strike with lightning to empower. That is quite interesting, actually. So does that mean we can't like toss it through here or anything like that? Oh, it's like being rejected. That is super weird. Now to do this, there is a Scepter of Thunder. Will this allow me to strike lightning? Oh, it just disappeared out of my inventory. Wait, what? Oh, nice. It does say single use. I bet it doesn't work in my base. Wait, maybe it did work. It just caused it to become a thunderstorm? That had to be what happened, right? Like, this doesn't work now, does it? Okay, so I did make another one. I do want to try this because it does say strike with lightning to empower. I mean, if anything, I can always toss it in another recipe, but that doesn't seem to do anything. Okay. Charged snowball then? I do know this will strike lightning. Okay. Oh, it did work. So I guess if all else fails, you could always go about doing it that way with a charged snowball. I do see this right here is an environmental like accessory basically to this. So like this, I would assume like somehow connects to the environmental controller to allow it to work as if it was the environmental controller. But before I go back underground, I want to make sure the day is saved and I can make the weather back to clear. That's much better. And so I guess now we have like one of the harder things done. We do need the undead planks. Thankfully, we get those through the logs that we're farming with our bee, and we get ourselves a mace of destruction. Perfect. Okay, so recharging this mace of destruction with blood. I'm kind of scared to use this. Can I right click in here to fill this up? Can I right click here to fill it up? Okay, I can. Now, the mace of destruction is supposedly a scary device. It says shift right click, or right click to charge power level. Okay, so maybe by default it has a built-in whoops button, like where you have to charge it first. Let's try and go somewhere that we don't have to worry about anything, right? Back at our old sky base. Okay, so down here we can test it out. So now what I'll do is I'll hold down right click, charge it up, and oh, the flickering is so bad, and then right click. Wait, does this like cast? Oh, it just like blows up the area right in front of you. Oh, the area is actually not that big. But it doesn't even work on some things. What? Oh, you know what? Maybe it's more to be used on mobs? Okay, now I have no idea what this thing was really going to be used for. Okay, so shift right click. Like single right click, not hold, changes the power level. So we can set this to a power level of 4, and that is a bit more probably. Okay, yeah, that's significantly more. Oh yeah, this is like a wand of literal TNT. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool though, but man, that used a lot of blood. Like the entire thing of blood gone, like all 4 buckets. So just to be on the same side, I'll set this back to 0 for now. Oh boy, yeah, and we're gonna need this for the ATM star, by the way. So we have one now, and it also needed to be completely filled. So we can save this for later. I'm actually gonna get an item frame, and we can place this on our wall right here. Like kind of to demonstrate, hey, we have done this. Look at that. So now technically we have almost everything needed for the Oblivion Shard already. The only thing we haven't done so far here that's just not a standard craft, like for example, the Galgadorian drill, this right here from Steve Karts, is honestly just a craft. But the Urgas, we also need the Snow Queen trophy and the Hydra. This is basically all we need, which is from the Twilight Forest. And to be able to automate that, I think we'd have to kill each of those bosses 6 times to be able to get ourselves a data model. But besides that, like, we are basically on our way to that all the mod star. And now that we have blood automated, oh, this is going to be so much easier. Because remember, if we dive into the modular machinery addition that has been added to all the mods, you can see right here, blood is going to be required for all of this stuff. For example, if we want to automate making modularium, which is going to be a necessary thing for getting into this modular machinery mod. So yes, we may be like 30 plus episodes deep, but man, things are just now starting to get good. Now, there is one more thing I do want to show you. Believe it or not, the dark tank is something that we are going to need. And this dark tank needs to be filled with Eclipse Ember fuel, which is a process I'm actually looking forward to automating. I think it's going to be really fun. And this fuel is actually from Just Dire Things, so it's going to involve us setting up some automation for that in the future. But it does need to go inside of a dark tank, and that's how we're actually going to submit it. But if you go to click on this recipe to see how it is made, you will not. But yes, this right here is a regular dark tank from EvilCraft, which is really cool. Like, the EvilCraft dark tank has a pretty cool mechanic where you can continue to increase its size. So for example, if we have a default of what you see right here is 16, if we want to increase that size, we then combine it and we get 32, and so on and so forth. Like, it's at 32 now, we just keep combining and keep combining over and over again. And I don't even know if it has a limit, honestly. So honestly, one of the better tanks in the pack, and I think it has an auto supply as well. You can see right here, which I believe is if you shift right click, it will automatically take the contents and try to supply it to things that need fluid. Works really well with refilling your tools that, well, require blood, of course. So now I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. I mean, there was a lot we went over. Like, we went over integrated dynamics and how to get that mod up and running and get that to be able to crush things and also make infinite blood, all kinds of cool stuff, and also progress through EvilCraft all the way enough to be able to complete the end game of this pack in doing so. So if you learned something new and you did enjoy, please be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and of course give this video a huge thumbs up. And I look forward to, well, seeing you guys in the next episode. But before you go, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And so today, that huge thanks is going to go out to Uncle Unix. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Guys, I thank you all too much, honestly, too much. Thank you so much. Never mind, it's not enough. I'll see you guys in the next episode, I hope. And as always, thanks for watching.